Circle of hands, cold spirits plan, searching my land for an enemy. Came across love's sweet cost, and in the face of beauty, evil was lost. Sky full of eyes, minds full of lies, black from their cold hearts down to their graves. Murder the dawn, spreading their scorn, cursing the sun of which love was born. We must keep them away. Pretty soon we'll pay, count the cost in sorrow. Sacrifice, future has its price, and today's only yesterday's tomorrow.
When you see the sharp edges of the sun, you move the cup to the left, and you see the sun is inside the cup. It is an optical illusion, but nevertheless it is interesting. And then you circle with the cup so that spirals are drawn alongside the inner wall of the cup, and spiraling down and stopping and spiraling out to the top, and down again, stopping and spiraling up the other direction. Like this, in this way, you absorb the solar power from the cosmic realm, the stratospheric realm, the cosmic realm, into the cup, or at least it is not impossible. Bhur Bhuva Svaha. This is taken from the ritual of Rudolf Steiner, preparation of the special treatments for biodynamic agriculture, where in the similar way you mix the water, the rainwater, the fresh rainwater, with the shit of the cow you have kept 1 year underground in the horn of a cow. Whatever, I did this on a biological farm in Germany. Whatever the effect may be ontologically is disputed, but phenomenally and phenomenologically, what you experience and then what you make a phenomenological theory about it is that it's a kind of concentration, meditation. You come back from all ideas and whatever projects, and so you come to the real perception of the sun, the cup, and the motion and the present moment. And whatever other ontological effects there may be, if there is really energy of the cosmic realm into your cup, and then it goes into your body, is not so important as the phenomenal effect that you get presence of your soul and body. And this is the goal of Zen and of any other life-enhancing concentration technique. Ne? And that we drink cacao, obviously, is supported by the great expert in physiology and healthy morning and the sunrise, okay, and the dawn phenomena. Ludwig Nietzsche, who has not only said that there are many dawns that had not yet risen. Es gibt viele Morgenröten, die noch nicht geleuchtet haben, im Original. Und in seinem Ecce Homo, in seiner Autobiografie und in der Deutung seiner Werke, erwähnt er schon, dass er auch Kakao trinkt. Morgen früh. And we usually drink cacao with sunrise, the initiation drink, which we call the kikaon, according to the mysteries of Eleusis, ne? Where it is reported, at least, in some rare sources, that the initiatees were given a potion, a magic drink, a kikaon, which probably included some psychotropic plants, and with the help of this magic potion, the ego was dissolved, and we have naturally far more advanced theory of the ego, as when we take another book from our travel library. This is not a book, this is a table tennis racket, a little one, but nevertheless red and suitable for the red morning, to use it as a kind of marking for the text, okay? So, we have two important books, The Spirit, or the Analytical Mind, or the Analytical Reason as an enemy, an adversary of the soul, from Ludwig Klages. We are now working on the second volume, which is called The Theory of the Willpower. Die Lehre vom Willen, the study or the knowledge or the wisdom or the discipline or the study of the will, of the ego willpower. Okay. Im Original hier der Geist, das würde sagen der Seele. And then we have the red tennis table rackets are for, which you cannot read, probably, is vom cosmogonischen Eros, on cosmogonic Eros, which incidentally has been talked about by some American lover or admirer of Ludwig Klages recently, but according to our Kikeon initiated soul, it was not, the depth of it was not harvested completely. So we have a Kikeon which is filled with Nietzschean recipe of the cacao in the morning, and we have a red Minoan cup here, which is even older than the Eleusian mysteries, because the Eleusian mysteries were later developments of the original cult of the Great Mother that was celebrated on the island of Crete, the proper Atlantis, thousands of years before Eleusis mystery cults flourished in Greece, close to Athens, and then continued until, let us say, the 4th or century, AD. Bhur bhuva svaha tat savitu varenyam bhargo devasya dhimahi yo 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 naha prachodaya. And as Indo-Europeans, we naturally are inclined to connect the cult of the Great Mother with the celebration of the Mother Sun, the Gayatri Mantra, And functionally, what is more important, from whatever realm you take these exercises and cults and initiations and whatever, don't be worried about the external, measurable, touchable, and kind of cultic outside, what sounds and what clothes and what locations, what kind of architecture in the temple and so on. This is all very important because it supports the melting of the soul with the physical surroundings. But it can differ from place to place according to culture, language, and tradition, and natural surroundings, elemental surroundings. But the effect can be in the best, when it comes to the best effect, the dissolution of the ego structure inside the software of the human soul. Remember that. This is our great discovery. This is a discovery of Ludwig Klages. This is a discovery partly of Johann Jakob Bachhofen, who has studied deeply the Mediterranean culture of the pre-Greek epoch. This is also a great discovery of Nietzsche, who doubted very strongly if the cognitive powers of man are so, let us say, independent from what the body and soul absorb from the surroundings, from the elementary world. Bhur bhuva svaha tat savitur. But it is mainly the discovery of Ludwig Klages, who has found out that the cognitive functions are derivations of the soul field. This is the Copernicus kind of reversal of values from Descartes. Descartes, with whom the decline of the European soul and love and participation and enjoyment of sensual life and creative inspiration, this deterioration of the soul is enhanced by Descartes and by the rationalists extremely, because they consider the soul to be a whirlwind, as something which is disturbing the pure cognitive function, pure reason. That is the power to doubt even itself, and then it comes to the conclusion that it cannot doubt itself, cannot doubt its doubting, and so there is the last security of man is his ego, his doubting ego. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a disastrous mistake because, as Ludwig Klages has pointed out, we as humans make the big mistake of taking apples and whatever, and oranges, or even tape recorders and apples, or computers and human brain, essentially different entities, and we confuse them as if they were the same essence. So this is the one big categorical mistake of human thinking. You don't spend enough time of finding out what is the essence of some entity, be it a computer, be it a human brain, be it an apple, be it an orange. And then you deal with them as if were of the same essence. And it became the problem of philosophy, religion, and science since the Platonic time, since Plato in Greece, until today, that the dichotomy was created artificially between the so-called spirit or cognitive power and its kind of derivation, necessary but not useful, and something which has to be fought against by clear reason power, that is the soul. So you have one part of the dichotomy, one part of the dichotomy of thinking is spirit, analytical mind, cognition, and the soul, which is somehow tolerated, but is a disturbing element inside the reason. And on the other side is the body, and complete either enemy, as it was in the Christian times, sinful, or a machine that has to be mastered by scientific means, as it is since Descartes. Not so much in the Hellenic times, pre-Platonic times, and definitely not in the Minoan times, in the Keftiu times, because the Minoans were called themselves Keftiu, the inhabitants of ancient Crete, the eldest and the most sophisticated, I would say, most life-supporting culture in Europe. And original, not a culture of invaders, not a culture of nomadic tribes that have overrun Europe coming from Asia some 2000 BC. So this is our home. This is our real home, traditional home of European culture, is the Minoan Crete. And there, as then has been reconstructed by Bachhofen in his book about the mother culture on Crete, Das Mutterrecht, the law of the mother, on mother's law, which is a very detailed description of the legal system that has survived on some islands in the Aegean Sea, where the legal systems were conceived to the advantage of the female. So for example, that when there is heritage, the laws of who is going to inherit the estate and the property, it is always the youngest daughter who is going to inherit, because the youngest daughter is going to bring and carry the life of the tribe or of the family the furthest possible time in the future. Okay, so nevertheless, the dichotomy then on Minoan Crete is completely different. You have on one side body, wonderful elementary body which is part of nature, of all animals, plants and man, and the soul which is an software or meaning of the body. Okay, and they are one unity. They are the unity of life, of organic life. When there is a soul, always there must be a body, because the body is the expression of the soul. And when there is a body, there must, a living body, let us say, not a corpse, but a living body, there must be a soul, which is the software, the meaning, and phenomenally experiencing part of the unity life. Because definitely even your sensual perceptions, touch, the skin and smell and the sun on your face and the sounds of the birds and the sea, that all is perceived through the organs and perceptions, the ayatanas in Buddhist context, but nevertheless this is just only a transfer of signals, but the actual phenomenal experience is again in the soul field. So body and soul, one unity for all organisms, for all living organisms, plants, man and animals. And even sometimes some philosophers like Whitehead would say that even rivers, lakes and clouds and mountains have a similar soul and similar body to the individual living organisms. He calls them small organisms, the individual ones like birds and foxes and man and so, and the large organisms like the sea, the mountains, and even the biosphere of the planet Earth, which then is an agreement with the new theory of Lovelock. Gaia is a living organism, mother, and it is in agreement with the recent findings in Nag Hammadi codices, which have been interpreted by John Lamblash as the Sophia Gaia narrative, that this planet, mother planet, is the body of Sophia, which was an eon and creative power in the center of a galaxy that has plunged into the third arm of the Milky Way and morphed into this planet, Earth. So this all is congruent. It has a different dichotomy. It has a life part. This is body and soul of any living organism, small or large, from all the insects and bacteria to plants and trees and man, and then lakes, rivers, planets. And on the other side, the enemy is the spirit, the cognitive function, the ego, the analytical reason, whose characteristics are, according to consciousness even belongs here, I have myself defined it as a derivation of the soul field, change, a functional change of the soul field, and that only in human beings there are no such derivations in animals, plant, or elementary conglomerates like the seas and lakes. Only in the human individual, after the ego expresses itself in the soul field. Let's see, we change it completely. We re-evaluate, and this we are grateful to Nietzsche that he has given us the methodological instrument of re-evaluation of value. So we re-evaluate Descartes, who says primary is the analytical doubting ego, the cognition, and the soul is a disturbance which has to be dealt with and removed somehow, and the body is mechanic. We re-evaluate it, say no, the real thing and the life-supporting, life-enhancing unity of life is body and soul, and the derivation, and the dangerous derivation in human species is the birth of the ego and the successive cognitive functions in the human soul field, which can then bring a lot of troubles if they are not understood. I mean, we are not refusing the ego and the cognitive functions completely, because, for example, even this thinking of mine is the cognition, but it is a different way of cognition. It's a different way to name wisdom, to name some insights that you have, which basically go like the drawing borders, like saying there are realms of life and there are realms of body and soul, both plants, animal and biospheric, that cannot be understood, okay, by analytical reason, and it should not be played with in irresponsible manner of scientists, physicians, and politicians, and business people, but it is. And this is also a cognitive sentence, but it just draws a limit. It names that which can be understood about life analytically is double point that it cannot be understood conceptually. Okay, so this is a naming of a wisdom insight. Okay, so you see the re-evaluation of all values here, that the soul and body are elevated into a unity of life. They always come together, and in plants, animals, and natural phenomena, natural entities, is always healthy and okay, whereas only in the human being there comes a derivation when this other part of the dichotomy that stands against life somehow penetrates the soul field of an individual human being, and the expression of this penetration of the spirit in the human soul is the birth of the ego. The ego is basically a parasitic software which changes then some realms, some spaces, some regions of the morphogenetic soul field into cognitive functions like consciousness, self-consciousness, and you always have to add personal, egoistic, because they are emanations, derivation, functional changes of the soul field, so radiating from the point of penetration, from the ego point. And then you have egoistic consciousness, egoistic personal self-consciousness, egoistic personal will to power, egoistic personal perception, which makes out of the flux of phenomena as we experience as artists and as children, and smelling and dancing and swimming and working even in the fields, and makes sharply defined Cartesian objects clear and distinct and separated. And then we have the last function, so far I know of, is the personal, egoistic, conceptual thinking, which makes out of the flux of emotion and perception in the meaning of pictorial kind of flowing, not separated river of life that we experience when we do not think cognitively. It separates them into clear, again, Cartesian units, concepts, okay, and out of them builds a theory about life, about nature, about human thinking, about whatever we want, no? And to return back to our Kikeon story, the initiation of Eleusis and the initiations of the Minoan cup, which you can support if you want to sympathize and somehow discuss it and take part in this my vision that it is on the shores of Crete, basically the south, because the north is very much commercialized, that new temples, new Eleusinian mystery temples should be built or rediscovered or renovated, because this is the motherland. This is where it all started. This is where it all was well before there was this catastrophe of the 12th century, 1250 or something BC, with the eruption of the volcano Santorini, and before the collapse of East Mediterranean cultures here, and the invasion, then a very strong invasion of the Asiatic tribes of the Indo-Europeans, men on horses with a military structure and with one abstract commander god on the top. Okay, these were the social and the social structure of the nomadic tribes of the so-called Indo-Europeans that start to migrate, like 5000 BC, starts to migrate from the Central Asia to the south, destroying the Indian civilization, the original Indian civilization, the Dravidic civilization, then creating the great empires of Persian region and Akkadic, and then coming down here to the Mediterranean as the hordes of men on horses, Achaeans and other, and developing the Greek civilization. This here mother culture is 2000 years older on a high level, parallel to Egypt. When you would say, okay, Egypt has its own value, even though for us it is a patriarchal culture devoted to the worship of life after death, the Minoan culture, strangely enough, running parallel with Egypt, is a female, not dominated, but it is not matriarchat, which is matrimonial culture. It's matrimonial, that is, men and women have their respective functions in the best possible way, so that women take care of what is important for life, because they are life-giving human animals. Okay, and that's why the Eros, that's why here we have the cosmogonic Eros. This book deals with the refutation of the egoistic will to power and proves that it is the first function that runs over all whatever we are doing if we deal with us, friends, animals, and nature in an egoistic way. Okay? And this book of cosmogonic Eros describes the solution, the dissolving of the ego structure in a human animal through ecstasies. And the ecstasy may be either induced by a psychotropic plant, as it was in the cults of Eleusis, but in modern times it can be a heroic dissolution, that is through sport or artistic, aesthetic dissolution of the ego in music, as we saw. Or we have sport, dancing, running, swimming, but not under the command of the ego, but in the embracement with the elements. The elements are passively drawing our soul into their morphogenetic fields, and the body is expression of that. That's why when we swim, we merge with the soul of water by touching its body of water. We do not measure the swimming pool like Asian nomadic warriors running straight forward and measuring the time in Cartesian way and comparing and dissecting even the last 5 centimeters when somebody is touching the goal, then there will be a special camera which will prove that there was a separation, a distinct separation between the finger of the second swimmer and the finger of the first swimmer. The same applies for skiing and all racing now. Or maybe then you have tennis games then they have a hawk eye, which is a Cartesian eye, which will distinctly show that the ball was out, even though the human eye cannot distinguish it. Okay, so no. This is an egoistic will to power way of sport, which can never achieve a dissolution of the ego. Okay, kind of liberation of the soul and melting of the soul field with the soul of the elements, and that's why enhancing the body cells with the software of the water, of the wind, with the soul of the sun, and so on. Okay, so that's why you definitely have ecstasies in sport. If like Djokovic is falling to his knees for the 10th times, winning Australian Open or so, and so. But to us, these are, I beg your pardon, slightly hysterical moments of releasing the great ego pressure. The ego pressure is so strong by these modern competitions, especially in tennis, where it takes like four hours or something like that. If it is five-set game, that the concentration is enormous. And if you know, like I was a professional sportsman in fencing, and I played tennis myself, and I was a ski instructor. If you know how much it takes to be perfect, tens and tens of years of daily training, decades, and the ego power must be there, otherwise you will not do it. No? And then when it is all over, suddenly with one moment, and this is again a Cartesian moment, it is a distinct moment, it is only this ball and the position of this ball at the end of 4 hours of of playing that decides everything. This is like the apocalypse. This is like the last judgment ball. And this is all the same paradigm of the patriarchal, military, vertical command structure, okay? And this is what we want to dissolve, because it's going to destroy us. And it's already destroying us, okay? All the historical phenomena that we see now in Europe and other countries at the 21st century, in economy, in society, in military terms, are hysterical expressions of the decline of the egoistically dominated culture. As Nietzsche has pointed out very sharply, a decadent culture is self-aware that it is decadent. Naturally, everybody who is decadent, who gets old and weak and ill, and the life does not taste anymore, he feels it and he compares it with his young days. Now that we do individual and we do it on a cultural level. But Nietzsche found out that the remedies that a decadent individual and a decadent society invents for itself are enhancing the decadence. This is terrible, you know. This is like going down, because it's the ego who wants to save the ego. Okay. So this is not going to work. So that's why we have this Gikeon of Minoan life and the wisdom of Nietzsche and Ludwig Klages and Heidegger partly and Bach often and Krishnamurti, who is excellent in his discoveries and in his talks about thinking must stop. We say yes, but a different thinking can be born, the so-called deep thinking of Heidegger, or the visual thinking of Ludwig Klages, or the meaningful thinking of Ludwig Klages, and the visual thinking of Rudolf Steiner. So we do not say that ego and its 5 derivations are completely wrong and to be refuted. No. This is a great discovery also of Nietzsche, that there is only one source of life power, only one source. Beyond good and evil is symptomatic. There is one source of life, and its expression sometimes is evaluated as good, sometimes is evaluated as bad, according to the model of the world of individual in various times of the development of society, okay, of civilization. So even here, soul and body are one, they are the life. There is an intruder, a cosmic intruder, we could say it, some entity which Klages names X. Its expression in the soul field is the ego. Out of the ego develops, the 5 derivation, egoistic functions, that are the cause of the decline of the individual human beings and the society and the natural surroundings in their life. The decadence destroys itself and destroys sometimes even the planetary lives. But without the ego, there would not be civilization. The ego, when it's born in the early stages of a civilization on any planet, causes what? It causes the rise of self-consciousness and the separation between inner and outer world. And then it demands for representation. A representation is the expression of any civilization with an early intelligent species starts to make for itself models of the world in which it lives. Animals would never do it. That's why they are happy. They are in paradise permanently. But they will never create this talk. Okay, and this guitar and this keycone and this cults and whatever and MP3 recording and cameras and whatever. So we have to pay a price for this. And as Heidegger has pointed out, use of modern technology must not be prohibited, but it must be done with a kind of overview. That is, you have to stand above the modern technology and use it only in the cases where it enhances life, and it is your life, the life of the society you live in, and the natural surroundings around you, the all biosphere. And this is what we have to concentrate on, and not to lie to ourselves. Yes, that's usually the re-evaluation of all values goes again and again and again. Now the supporters of death will be talking like the supporters of life. And so we have the we have the terrible situation in which, you know, everybody's in the politics and in economy and religion is trying to make it better and save the life and save the economy and save the people, and that is deteriorating all the time. Isn't it obvious that something is wrong? Because the ego is reflecting on its own previous destruction of life, and it cannot otherwise than to invent methods that are enhancing and propelling this destruction. So what is it? Dissolution of the ego is the first methodical demand at the end of our culture. It has been pursued already in India with the great Buddha meditation styles, but it had a slightly different motivation. It was a motivation of nomadic tribe warriors that came from the north to India. Nietzsche would say it was too hot, and they lost their kind of northern esprit, and the solution was, okay, let's lie down, sit down, and dissolve all this as an illusion. Okay, it was a kind of private solution of all problems, and it is even today. The Buddhist will never wage a war if he's a real Buddhist. He will never push through his personal willpower to achieve something, because he knows moha is the madness of the ego. He strives to achieve the condition of moha, being free of ego, and here is in metta meditations, which must become one of the most important educational programs in all European schools now, is I wish that all the entities, they say beings, we would say all the souls around me are without ego, without illusion, without suffering, because the suffering is the consequence of the ego in the Indian system. We have to have different motivation. We have to have Nietzschean and Klagesian and Hellenistic and Minoan motivation, which dissolves the ego because it wants to have more life, more presence, more beauty, more swimming and running, and more oranges were they, and more cacao, and more loving and dancing. And for that, we want to overcome our individual barriers and enjoy the full plate of life that is offered to us by our mother. That is why we dissolve the ego. So, you have a short introduction into this project of New Eleusian Temple, which naturally will not be built, by some architecture bureau, or it will grow by the emanation of the vision of the soul, and it will connect people, and it will motivate some individuals who are feeling the necessity of this, and they can support this project even in the time where the money is still an ego instrument of domination. They can support it even financially if they have a deep intuition that this is a life-supporting project that shall never, as long as I'm concerned, be misused for private egoistic trip, a private egoistic trip. Okay, enjoy the day. The red morning. You have witnessed the red morning. We had red oranges, we had red fleece jacket and the sleeping bag and a red jacket, because I felt somehow when I was sitting here with the sunrise, the red clouds, that you will see them, that it has to be a style unity, that I have to absorb the blood of the clouds and of the sun and like that. It will be a kind of symbolic unity of life. Goodbye.
We drag these stones out from the earth, pull them for many days, breaking blue stone from the ground. We travel the ancient ways. The holy men ordain the work, they offer a sacrifice. We work our fingers to the bone, our bodies pay the price. A sacred stone circle to praise the gods world. Hail the sunrise, shine the dawn, praise the solstice, all is reborn. We work in teams through day and night, dig deep ditches down. We haul these rocks into their holes, our work will be renowned. The elders made a covenant with the skies above. Our survival will depend on it, this will be